This lesson is on the cell theory. Now, the cell theory is something that we use today, it's a theory that we have today to describe cells. Now, back in the day, we had no idea what cells were. We didn't know anything about them. So, what I'm going to start off with before I tell you what the cell theory is some discoveries made by scientists in the past that led up to this theory that we talk about today. So first, in our timeline of events, Robert Hooke discovers cells while examining thin slices of cork under a microscope. Now you will learn that all living things are made of cells, and remember that cork comes from a living thing. So he really didn't know what these things were, but he noticed that they kind of looked like little rooms, which is why he called them cells. Next in our timeline of events, Leyland Hooke observes living cells under a microscope and names the moving organisms animalcules. So this scientist noticed some bacteria from his teeth gunk and that they were moving around. He saw that they looked like animals, so he called them animalcules. And these are actually living cells. Next in our timeline of events, the nucleus is given its name by Robert Brown. Now you will learn that the nucleus is the part of the cell that holds everything about us, our DNA, and he called this the nucleus, which is what it's called today. Then Theodor Schwann publishes a book suggesting that the cell is the basic unit of life. So every living thing is made up of cells. It is the basic unit of life. Next in our timeline, Rudolf Virchow concludes that all cells come from pre-existing cells. So cells just don't pop up out of thin air. We don't know what came first. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg, but we do know that cells are going to come from other cells. Next in our timeline, Walter Fleming introduces the term mitosis and notes that chromosomes split longitudinally during this process. And mitosis is the term, and you'll learn in later videos, that cells split, cells come from other cells. And this is where you're talking about body cells. It's the reason that whenever you get cut, that it will heal. And then next on our timeline, James Watson and Francis Crick developed the double helix model of DNA. So they discovered that DNA wasn't just a long string or an X. If you look closely, it looks as a double helix, like a twisted ladder. So all of the discoveries, and probably some more, give us the cell theory that we use today. We know that the cell is the basic unit of life. We know that cells arise from pre-existing cells. And we know that all living organisms are composed of cells.